Folks, there's a couple of things we want to talk about. We want to talk about the high interest rates, and then the prices of the homes are skyrocketing. I mean, it's a red hot market right now. I mean, the sellers are in control. What are we going to do about that? And some people are afraid to buy property right now at the higher interest rates and at these higher prices because they're saying, what if the market corrects? What if the market corrects and we're stuck in this high price home? Meaning that if the market corrects and I paid an extra $50,000 or $100,000 and the market corrects, that means my property values could go down and that my property would be worth less than I paying for it. So they're saying, do I want to pay $500,000 for a home and then the market corrects and now it's worth 400,000, $100,000 less than what I paid for it? Let me tell you something, folks. There is a way, and you need to listen to this right now, to deal with the high interest rates, number one, and what we're paying for properties, number two. How would you like to put yourself in a position where you'll never be underwater? You can always be ahead of even a market correction. Listen, this is what we're going to be talking about today: high prices and high interest rates. All right, folks, here's what we're doing. We're putting something on the screen. I've got a $400,000 mortgage on the screen at 5%. And you can see the payment is $2147.29. And so now I want to show you something about attacking these loans. When you attack a loan, you attack it with the principal payments. And the principal payments, you want to make sure that you keep the principal payments low. Don't really concern yourself too much about the interest costs on these loans, and definitely not the interest rate. You want to take a look at what you're going to end up paying overall in interest if you have a plan. Now, if your plan is make all 360 payments, then you want the lowest interest rate possible. But if your plan is to pay this mortgage off in 7 to 9 years instead of 30 years to never, then you want to set yourself up in a way so that you can actually manage this loan better and cut out a lot of that interest. You can do that by controlling what you're paying for principal on each line of this schedule. I'm going to put up, when we attack this loan, we're attacking with the principal payment. I need to break this down between principal and interest right now. Listen, folks, look at the principal because that's what you borrowed. You didn't borrow the interest column, okay? Right now, these payments are $480 going to principal, $1,666.67 going to interest. That's a lot of money. Look at these interest payments. But guess what? You didn't borrow the interest payment. You borrowed the principal. So in fact, mortgage payment, out of everything that you're paying in the mortgage payment really is the principal part, because this is the money that you borrowed. The taxes and insurance you didn't borrow. The interest you didn't borrow. You only borrowed the principal portion, and you need to pay back the principal part. And that's how you attack this loan, by looking at the principal. How do we look at the interest? The interest is something to be avoided. The interest is something to be canceled when you're coming into a loan like this, once you learn how to read an amortization schedule. So if I can keep the payment in a range that is comfortable for me and my family, then, and keep the principal payment low, I can attack this loan better. So what's important? That when you talk to your realtor, when you talk to your mortgage professional, that you look at the amount of money that you're going to be paying towards your mortgage and then compare that as a percentage to your income. There is a certain percentage. Now, I'm not a mortgage professional, so I'm not going to get into those percentages, but make sure that the amount of money that you're paying towards your housing is always in line with the amount of money that you're making. That's going to be important. You don't want it to be too much. And by the same token, you don't want it to be too little. If you're paying too little for your mortgage, you're probably buying a house that's too small. If you're paying too little, if you're paying less than what you could pay for the house, you may be purchasing a house that's too small. And then if your family starts to grow, you're going to soon find yourself in a position where you're going to need a larger house. And every year you wait, the property values go up. So you want to be right sized in your house. You want to be right sized in your payments. And you want to be right sized in your principal payment on your loan. Watch this when we're talking about attacking the principal payments. So with this principal payment, if we make the payment on line 1 here, the principal payment on line 2 is $482.63. If we were to prepay that, all right, in the same month we made this very first payment and we prepay the $482.63, we get rid of the interest cost on line 2 and our next mortgage payment is on line 3. All right. So we can get rid of one whole payment for $482.63. Now, what happens when, watch this now, we're going to duplicate this tab, duplicating this tab, and we're going to lower this interest rate to 3%. Okay. Even lower. Just a few weeks ago, it was at 2.9%, less than 3. Okay. So now our payment is $1,664. Look at that, $1,664 versus a payment that's $2,147. The payment is $2,147.29 and $1,664.92. Those are the two payments we're contrasting. 2.9% interest rate versus a 5% interest rate. But let's take a look at this 2.9% interest rate and the principal payments. Do you see how much higher they are at 2.9? To get rid of one full payment, now we have to come up with $699 or $701 or $703 to eliminate payments from the loan if we're attacking the loan aggressively, as opposed to $400 payments. So what does that mean? Let me show you what, if we were to prepay the cumulative principal for 1 year, which would be right around $5,900. $5,900. What if you were to give the bank that much money all at one time once the mortgage is established? Okay. You give the bank that money, you can knock off 12 payments all at one time and save over $18,000 in interest we would not have to pay. That's at $5,900. But that's at the higher interest rate, because what happens is, see these $400 payments? What the bank has to do is, when you pay them the money, they have to divide these interest payments into this $5,900 and says, oh, okay, how many payments will we eliminate with $5,900 based on the principal payments that we have here? Okay, so the smaller the principal payments, the more $5,900 can do for you, eliminating a whole year's worth of payments. And your next mortgage payment the next month would be line 13 on this mortgage schedule. But when you take a look at the lower interest rate, look at what, here's what $5,600 would do for you. Here's what $6,300 would do for you. It only takes out about 8 payments to 9 payments, 8 or 9 payments, with about the same amount of money applied to this mortgage. You see, the people who own the bank understand this. So this is what we're talking about when it talks about the high interest rates. Actually, these interest rates aren't high. These interest rates are normalized. The interest rates we had a few weeks ago were historically low interest rates. These interest rates are getting back to where they should be in the first place. These are normalized interest rates, not high interest rates. They're high compared to where they were. Folks, don't let that language fool you. Don't let that language make you feel bad when it comes time to buy your home. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers and make a good decision for yourself. And this is why this room exists.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.